Everybody's Mama to Wife of One. So if you clicked on this video, then you know we are here to discuss episode 3 of season 4 of Bridgerton. To give you a little short recap from episode 2, in episode 2, Sophie got fired from her job from her stepmother and she's basically pushed out on the street. Her stepsister gave her some earrings or some shoe buckles or something to pawn. She didn't get a lot of money for it. So she's like, I need to get out of this town because the stepmother promised her, once I fire you, I'm going to make sure you don't have another job in Mayfair, which is basically where the ton lives. So she takes the little money she has. She goes to the countryside. She ends up a maid at this kind of bachelor pad. I think the parents are away for the weekend. And so there's all these men there. And she and her other friend, who's a maid, Hazel, get harassed. Benedict just happens to be there. He comes to her rescue, gets into a fight with some of these rowdy dudes who are drunk. He's drunk as well. And he falls on a piece of glass, but he doesn't know at the time how injured he is. She's about to leave, just walk off. She's like, gotta find a job somewhere. He's like, look, I promise I will help you and Hazel find a job. Just let me give you a ride. It's too, it's not dangerous. It's too dangerous for you to walk. So she's like, okay. Gets in this carriage with him. They start going, but it's raining really hard. So he's like, I have a cottage not too far away. Let's go to the cottage. The cottage, of course, is this big mansion because, rich people like to downplay everything. And she gets in and they try to start a fire. He tries to start a fire. And clearly, he doesn't know what to do. And it's a throwback to season 1 where Daphne and Anthony Bridgerton tried to warm some milk up on the stove, but neither one knew how to use the stove because they have servants. Why they need to know how to do these things, right? And there's also basically there's a few episodes in this particular scene. Well, yeah, this particular episode, few scenes where we are, well, not we, Benedict is reminded of his privilege and reminded of things that he does not have to consider. So basically, they're in the countryside. They end up staying there for a week because of his injuries. And he has some servants that live there, a man and a woman. He tells them Sophie is my guest. Treat her as such, even though they know she's a maid. And they see them getting close. They see them like flying kites together, and they end up kissing, and they're like talking in the library. I did also realize there are a lot of similarities between slaves and maids, for, at least in this Bridgerton world. He was surprised that she knew how to read. So apparently, maids during this time, I won't say they weren't allowed. Well, I don't know. I don't know if they weren't allowed to read or they weren't allowed to be taught. But he seemed surprised by that. She also was fluent in French and Latin, which apparently most maids are not either. That I can kind of understand a little better than just the reading part. But essentially, they're getting close, and his maid has to kind of have a sit down talk with him. She tells him a couple things. One, she tells him that the relationship between him as a person of the tongue and Sophie, who's a maid, would never be an equal relationship because A, you cannot marry outside of your station, below your station, I guess. And B, you can like her all you want, and there's so many things that you probably want to do with her, whether it's platonic or not my business, and that's great. But at the end of the day, because of her position, whatever you choose to do for her or with her or to her, she doesn't have a lot of choice in the matter. And again, that goes back to slavery time, where if you were the slave, your master could claim that they love you and claim that you're the only one and all this stuff while they not even date you, while they have sex with you, while they pump all these babies in you. But at the end of the day, you're their property. You don't have a choice. Now you can say no. And so the maid tells him that, but she also tells him something that I don't know if we as the viewer knew about his personality. She told him, don't treat Sophie like all of those beautiful pieces that you started in your library that you never finished. So essentially, apparently that's part of his personality trait that he gets really passionate about things and all gung ho, and then there's no completion. So at some point, Sophie's having fun. At first, it took her a while because she didn't know how to have fun. She didn't know how to relax because she's been working all her life. And she finally was like, you know what? This has been fun. But I know at the end of the day what I am. I'm a maid and I need to get a job. So they both agree, okay, we're going to go back to London, right? So in London, while they're in the countryside, kind of frolicking and having fun, and he's healing, in London, they have these things called the Maid Wars. And apparently, this was a real thing that took place. The house that Sophie left, well, that she got kicked out of her stepmama's house, apparently, and we learned this a little bit in, I think, episode 4, that most houses have quite a large amount of people as part of their staff. In the house, I think it's the Penton, something, whatever the stepmother's last name. In that house, there were only 8 servants. Sophie did the work of at least 4 or 5 people. So when she was fired, the stepmother realized, oh, I have to replace her. How am I going to replace her? All of a sudden, you would see her sending out the servants that she had left with these beautiful maroon velvet bags that was filled with money. And essentially, she started poaching servants and chauffeurs from other women of the ton with no regard for anything. She did not care. She was completely ruthless. And it took her hiring 4 or 5 people to replace the one, to basically replace Sophie. So all the work that Sophie did was the work of 4 or 5 people. And that's how many people she had to replace. So this is happening all over the ton where people are losing servants left and right. Lady Bridgerton is even asking her servants, like the main servant, like, are you guys happy here? She's like, oh, trust me, we're happy here. We ain't going nowhere. If I even feel some dissension, I will take care of it myself. So her people are being treated well. They're happy. They ain't going nowhere. However, the Featherington house, the main person, the main like servant, I guess, I've seen her face every single episode. She knows where the bodies are buried. She has like helped to lie for her mistress, for Lady Featherington. She's been like that girl. So she gets poached. She gets like a letter saying, hey, we can, give you more money if you choose to, leave. So she sees it and she's like, I love this family. She's like, but let me talk to Lady Featherington. So she tells her about it. And the first Lady Featherington laughs, like, oh, I'm sure you had a big laugh when you told them no. And she was like, well, she was like, I've been working here for 20 years and I haven't got a raise in 20 years. And, I could use more money. And at first they're like, oh, you can't talk about money around family. And she's like, I mean, huh. So Lady Featherington's like, okay, well, I'll think about it. Like, okay, I appreciate that. So the next time we see them, there's a huge box in front of Lady Featherington. And she's like, I thought about it, and if I gave you a raise, I would have to give everyone else a raise. And financially, we just can't give everybody raises, like we're just not in that position. But I do want you to know how much I appreciate you. So this is a gift just for you. And when I say it's a big box, I mean that box is huge, right? Like the woman has to bend over to pick it up. She opens this box, and it is old dresses from Lady Featherington. Dresses that are like 2 seasons out of fashion. Now, these are a couple things. One, you're not the same size. Two, just because she helps you get dressed in these gowns does not mean she likes these gowns. That not mean it's not her style. A lot of the colors are very garish, very out there, and it's like, girl, what we doing? Three, she is a maid. Where does she go where she can actually wear dresses like this? Dresses that you wore to balls that she can't even, she's not invited to. So what if she gonna wear these dresses to? And then after she looked at the dresses, she was like, oh man, that was so exhausting. She was like, once you before you go try on the dresses, can you like take them to your room and then can you get me some tea? And basically went back to business as normal. And then in the midst of this, I think the next time we see her, she's talking to Lady Featherington. Lady Featherington has a new dress. She's like, oh, there's a new dress. She's like, well, yeah. After I, went through my closet and gave you some of my old dresses, I was like, oh, man, I need to kind of refresh some stuff. And while she's talking, you see all these servants bringing in all these fresh new packages that Lady Featherington has bought. So she's like, hold up, wait a minute. You said you had no money. She's like, it's not polite to talk about money with family. Like we told you that. She's like, I'm not your family though. And she laid it out for her. I worked through this many years. I helped, Penelope with the whole lady whistle down thing. I've kept all your secrets about, the guy who came in and who stole people's money, about, how your husband really died. Like she kept all, and she's been like ride or die. Lady Featherington is so prideful, and she's like, well, I'm not happy here. You can just leave. And she calls on the bluff and she rolls out. It's like, you know what? Good for freaking you. That's what you need to do. Another thing that was happening in the city is that Francesca and John Sterling, are getting it in. They're having the sex. And they have a conversation about how they've been married a little less than a year and she still hasn't gotten pregnant yet. And if you've read the book, then you'll know that it did take her a while to conceive children. And when she does not conceive them with John. Little spoiler there. But he basically tells her, well, I heard that it's easier for a woman to conceive if she reaches the pinnacle. Now, they don't say specific words, during this time period of Bridgerton. They skirt around issues. So the pinnacle essentially is, I guess, once you have an orgasm, it's easier to have kids. And he's like, no, the pinnacle is right. She's like, of course I do. And of course she doesn't. And this is my thing. Like, we went through this with Daphne from season one, that she know nothing about no sex, right? So it's like, okay, I don't want to say I get it, but all right. Her mom tried to talk to her, but she was very kind of bumbling around, didn't really know what to say, was very nervous and uncomfortable. This was her first time having to have this conversation with any of her children. So Francesca first goes to her mother, and her mother is still kind of bumbling, doesn't really know what to say, doesn't gives all these like similes and analogies without really saying anything. And all I kept thinking was, if Daphne is the oldest girl, why didn't when her sisters came of age and they came of age to start courting and all that stuff, as a big sister, why didn't you write them or sit them down and talk to them about how sex works? Knowing that your mother was not able to have that conversation with you because she's uncomfortable, and that's fine. Then you, as a big sister, that's your job to sit down and be like, okay, let me tell you about the birds and the bees. Because with the queen, and Queen Charlotte, when the Queen got married, she didn't know anything. Lady Danbury drew pictures for her to show her, hey, this goes here, here's this kind of position. Because at that time, Lady Danbury was married and already had 4 kids. She was like, hey, somebody got to tell you, and your mama and your daddy are not here in Germany, Germany, in England. It is just you. So let me tell you what's going on, because ain't nobody else going to tell you. So, like, why wouldn't Daphne do that? So I was happy that Francesca finally went to Penelope. Speaking of Penelope, there was a scene this episode where Penelope and Colin are doing it in the carriage on the way to meet Francesca and John for lunch. It's like, I love that. Y'all newlyweds. Y'all supposed to be still being getting frisky, so good for y'all. But she's talking to Penelope. Penelope finally tells her, like, oh, what's the sensation between your legs? And she's kind of looking everywhere else but at Francesca, but at least she gives her an answer. And so it's very clear that Francesca has not reached the pinnacle. But this is my other issue. In addition to why didn't her big sister talk to her about this before she got married, as a married woman, if you as the husband have to question if she's reached the pinnacle or not, that means you have not helped her to reach the pinnacle. So if you're her husband, why haven't you done anything to make your wife have an orgasm? Like, have y'all just been having sex? Have you tried oral in any way? Do you know that that's an option? Like, a woman's pleasure is not supposed to be a woman's pleasure is not supposed to be solely dependent on a man. But if you have a man or have a spouse or a relationship partner, or whatever, it's supposed to be a shared responsibility at least. Now, obviously, for Francesca, yes, she needs to know her body, what she likes and don't like, and all that stuff. But John, as a man, I'm going to assume, and I think it's a fair assumption, that you are a lot more skilled than she is when it comes to sex and when it comes to relationships, when it comes to all that stuff. So why haven't you up to this point tried to get her to the pinnacle? Didn't quite understand that. And so one thing that Penelope mentioned was, you know, reaching the pinnacle should be adventurous, it should be spontaneous. And so there's a scene where Francesca and John are sitting on the couch and she just reaches over and starts kissing him. And nice kisses, and he's like, oh, they're so formal. And John seems so just chilled. I feel like if the tables were turned, and let's say it was Anthony being kissed suddenly like that, he would have immediately put his arms around his wife, thrown her on the bed or done something. He would have made sure that, okay, it's not going to stop the kissing. Since you're coming on to me and you're letting me know, hey, I want to kiss and be intimate with you, I'm going to take full advantage and we're going to do the damn thing. John just seems, he was taken aback by the kisses, but I'm like, she kissed you long enough that you could be shocked for a couple seconds, and then you kiss her back, and then you rub her shoulders, you do whatever. In Bridgerton is all about like, oh, he touched my hand, and oh, his hand touched my hair. The intimate stuff is very like small, right? But she kisses him, and then I think they accidentally like butt heads or something, and they pull back, and he's like, oh, well, to what to I oh the surprise. It's like just take advantage of the fact that she's being spontaneous. Like, why do you have to question it, and why aren't you like encouraging her to do this more often by reacting in a way that she knows that you like this? I thought it was kind of weird. And some people have commented that they think there's no chemistry between John and Francesca. I think they have a very quiet chemistry where it's very clear, I think, that they genuinely like and love each other. I think that's very clear. But it's just not as like fire and ice and just boom, boom, boom. It's not really set up that way, which is not a bad thing. All love on TV, especially, does not have to look that way. And I think that was the point of her getting with him in the first place. But I was just like, girl, what we doing? And then when it comes to Violet and Lord Marcus Anderson, they are kind of flirting with each other. They're always happy to see each other. They promenade through the garden or whatever, but whenever they're together, the kids are never around her. So somehow she'll go to these places where none of her children are there, and that's where she sees Marcus. And they haven't really done anything. There have been a couple scenes where like he's at her house and they're sitting on the couch and they're slowly getting close to each other, and then she'll hear somebody come in and she immediately just kind of scoots to the other side, like, oh my gosh, no. But this time, after having a conversation, or trying to have a conversation with Francesca about the pinnacle, it had her thinking about her own needs and her own desires. And she's like, you know what? This is something I want. So one of the most earnest scenes was her going to Lord Marcus's home, which we've never seen his home before, but it's her going to his home on her own, unannounced, and she's sitting beside him on the couch, and she's Violet nervous is funny because she's just mumbling, she's talking really really fast, and she's going from one subject to the next. She's answering her own questions, and it's very funny because normally Violet is just so poised and she's so this regal sounding and regal acting. So to see her be vulnerable and nervous is really really endearing. And essentially what she's telling him is, I like you, I'm ready for this, but we need to be discreet because I haven't been with anyone in a long time. But I want you to be the one that I'm with. I want you to be the one that I touch and kiss. And they kiss. And it's like, finally, they finally kiss. And it's so sweet. It's like, oh, this is great. So it's a very sweet moment. So that's pretty much what happens in episode 3. So let me tell you about some of the things that I noticed.